What do you think of the FBI raid on Trump? I try not to put much mental energy into these matters until it's all done. Save me some possible headache. I think we are all protecting ourselves for fear of disappointment. I want to know what they were looking for. People don't get raided for no reason. A lot of outlets are speculating it has to do with classified documents he illegally took out of the White House. At the end of the day, I will definitely be surprised if any charges come of it, let alone fines or jail time. However, at the same time, they do not issue search warrants for nothing. You have to have probable cause that they believe a crime was committed, and there is evidence at Mar-a-Lago that could connect to the crime. The amount of oversight on this that would be required to make it happen makes me think for the first time that something will actually come out of it. This is an enormous risk on the part of the Dodge and the FBI. As a Canadian, I read the headline and thought that's interesting, and then moved on. To be honest, I'm pretty happy that we are receiving less Trump news. As a Canadian, I'm concerned that our major trading partner, the most powerful country in the world and the backbone of the world financial system and economy, is devolving before our very eyes, and a significant percentage of the US population believe the most absurd conspiracy theories. It must have required a ridiculous amount of justification that satisfied multiple people who had to sign off on it and honestly agree to serving it against a former president. I fully support the idea that no one is above the law. But also, come on. He's admitted more crimes than most people serving time. Let's not act shocked. Particularly considering that the current FBI director and the judge that signed the search warrant were both Trump appointees is a Trump appointee. The judge involved wasn't presidentially appointed. It's great. They've done some raids before, but none are big or as great as this one. Makes all the other raids look small. It will be the greatest raid in this great country's history. A lot of people are saying it. I believe my mom will still think he's being framed by the deep state for trying to protect all those pizza children. My mom essentially said the same thing yesterday after telling me she reads a lot of credible news. When I asked what she reads, she refused to tell me and got upset that I didn't just blindly accept her being an expert. You know, I kinda like it. I know this might be an unpopular opinion here on Reddit, but I don't care for that Trump fella. Golly, that's awful bold of you. Why are so many peeps calling this a raid? No broken down doors or stun grenades, nothing of that sort. Just the FBI exercising a search warrant. Because Trump used that word and the right-leaning media just parrots him, and other outlets, in their haste to get an article posted, aren't clever enough to understand the important connotative difference between using a word like raid vs using a phrase like executing a search warrant. The funniest shit to happen on Twitter in a long time. MTG calling to defund the FBI is 10/10ths golden content. Michael Steele reply to her statement on Twitter is gold. Trump failed to return classified docs requested by the National Archives. A federal judge issued a search warrant for probable cause of a crime. This is not some rando move by the FBI, so you shit for brains Republicans calling for defunding the FBI for once try to be less stupid. Make America great again. Hey, that lines up with Mar-a-Lago. Very nice. It's outrageous that a former president would refuse to return classified documents after repeated requests. That's the real story. All Americans should be enraged by his lawlessness. That a court-sanctioned search was required in order to retrieve the unlawfully retained documents is a sad commentary, not on the politicization of the Dodge, but instead on the depth of Trump's certainty that rules don't apply to him. If I thought I was playing 4D chess and I knew I couldn't win, and didn't want to campaign again because it's exhausting, but also didn't want to be seen as the loser who gave up, this is exactly what I would do. The deep state stole the election from me, and now they say I'm ineligible, sick, for office because I forgot a few papers in my briefcase. Sorry folks. You can't just take top secret and classified documents and do whatever with them. Seems warranted. Yep. I used to work for a defense contractor and they reminded us often that mishandling classified information is very illegal and you will end up in prison if you do that. I prefer presidents who don't get raided by the FBI. Edit. I'm catching second-hand copium and it's grade A stuff. No one under investigation by the FBI should be president. Trump. Throughout the 2016 election about Hillary and her emails. They even broke into his safe. But did they seize his toilets? Apparently, that's where Trump puts his most sensitive documents. If he's innocent, he has nothing to worry about, lol. Didn't he say the Republicans are the party of law and order? They should all be supporting the raid. If done by law, and with solid corroborating evidence, no one is above the law. Everyone should be held to the same standards. If Trump broke the law, with verifiable evidence, he should be punished accordingly. FBI investigates Hillary Clinton. Trump says this is a great day for the legal system. FBI investigates Trump. Trump says this is an abuse of the legal system. His hypocrisy is astounding. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. All parties understand that doing something like this makes for an incredibly volatile political situation. Whatever they were searching for is going to have to be huge in order to justify it. Well, Trump is accused of trying to topple the US democracy. The sheer level of evidence needed for the FBI to even consider going to a judge to request a no-knock raid on the residence of a former president, especially one with a cult of personality like Trump has, is, legally speaking, staggering. Then for that judge to actually approve it. I mean, if the evidence is fabricated, then the FBI agents would have to know that when it comes to light, that their careers are completely over, and they'd be looking at jail time themselves for fraud. Same if the judge were aware. So the evidence has got to be airtight. So, this has got to be a pants-shitting moment for anyone who has dealings with Trump. It's really no wonder you have all these right-wing personalities and politicians screeching their lungs out trying to depict it as persecution. They've got to be hoping to control the narrative, so that when the charges drop on Trump and any co-conspirators, that the MAGA cult will literally try to violently overthrow the government to keep them out of jail. Yeah, for all the people who are still saying nothing will ever happen to him, we've already crossed the Rubicon here. No former president has ever had an investigation into them get to this point before. This is a first-time thing in American history. Frankly, I'm more optimistic than ever that he'll face actual penalties. I think he's the leader of a domestic terrorist organization, and that we should be doing more than this. Throwaway because I'm not willing to nuke my main account over this. I'm a conservative Republican that works in politics, so here's what I think if anybody cares. Searching the home of a former president and possible future candidate is a huge deal. I have two thoughts. First, nobody is above the law and they generally don't just give out federal search warrants. If a crime was committed, and the feds believe that evidence of the crime can be found on the grounds of Mar-a-Lago, then great. Turn the place upside down until you find what you're looking for. Second, something as extraordinary as this requires as much transparency as the law allows. If at all possible, the Justice Department needs to lay out the evidence that they used to obtain the search warrant. There are legitimate reasons for being concerned over something like this, and they need to communicate the reasons behind taking this action. You aren't wrong, but I think they need to get what they were after, 15 boxes, before they start sharing info. It hasn't been 24 hours. They have been asking for this stuff back since he left the White House. It was an issue on day one. As usual, he makes his own problems and then fundraises on them. Historic. Never happened before. Long time coming, to be honest. But let's not get excited yet. Nothing has really happened yet. Still a very good chance of him weaseling out. A pretty interesting historical event. As an European, I can't really recall any other event where a former US president was raided by the FBI. I honestly can't understand how anyone is against it. Like, it's not like some police randomly went into a house. The amount of evidence that had to have been needed to do this to a former president has to be outstanding. And yet, people act like it's a crime or misuse of the FBI. If the president did something illegal, he needs to be made accountable for it. The blind loyalty people have for this man is impossible to understand for me. Family members included. Good sign that US democracy isn't dead yet. God knows what Republicans do if they win in 2024. Government knew what was taken, knew where to find it, found it and reclaimed it. Sounds pretty clear-cut and efficient. You can't destroy public property, archival records. POTUS is a public servant, and you can't keep classified documents. If a normal person did that, the FBI would come to their house too. Best news I've heard in ages. If Trump gets away with trying to steal an election, the American project is over. I'd love to see more corrupt politicians being held accountable. The man took classified documents out of the White House on camera and didn't return them. Seems appropriate to me. The reaction from rightoids has been hilarious. So many temper tantrums and people getting triggered. I think it's going to make him more likely to get re-elected if this doesn't somehow prohibit him from running again. Even if it prohibits him from running, he will use it to get one of his sons or friends elected. Don't underestimate his base. They do not care at all what the FBI finds. I have family who I never thought would bend their values the way that they do for him.